You know what makes this story so unfortunate is that in the big 2026, people still have a victim mindset. They always want to point the finger, give all the excuses underneath the sun, saying that Carmelo Anthony, he was suffering through seizures, as if that has anything to do with what the action that he committed. Now, what is the common denominator of the situation? It is the weapon of choice. Remove the knife from Carmelo Anthony's hands, and we would not even know this man exists. But he wants to decide on this green planet to bring a knife to school grounds and cry milk and beg for sympathy and remorse as if he wasn't blessed enough to make a decision. Shout out to Doors in the building. How in the world are you in 12th grade? He's not an adolescent. He's not in fourth, fifth grade. He's more than capable to make decisions, but he decided to bring a 3.5 pocket knife on school grounds, but yet he is getting sympathy. And do you know who he's getting sympathy from, ladies and gentlemen? From his own people. Now, for the record, not all skin folk is kinfolk. Just because they share the same skin complexion as you doesn't mean they share the best interest of you. If a certain group of people had the best interest of Carmelo Anthony, such as this man on the screen, Frederick Haynes, instead of crying and making excuses in the church house, he needs to come out and say we should learn from Carmelo Anthony and not make the same mistakes. It's very unfortunate that Carmelo Anthony is now going to suffer 30 plus years in federal prison. TDC down south in Texas. Now TDC stands for Texas Directional Center, and he weighs a buck 130. May God bless his soul. But nobody told him to bring a knife to school. And what's crazy work, you have people, grown entities walking this planet thinking it's okay to bring a knife to school. Now, if somebody touches you in public, by all means, you have every single right to defend yourself. But on school grounds, just like in a workplace, you have to abide by the rules and the regulations. You can't just bring a knife to school and think you're going to get away. No, absolutely not. And then people want to ask the question mark, why, as a first time offender, did the man get a premeditated first degree charge 30 plus years? He doesn't deserve that because he's a first time offender. Well, it's premeditated, ladies and gentlemen, because the man brought a knife to school. Then he repeats to Austin Metcalf, rest in peace to that man. He says, touch me and see what happens. That is premeditation. The jury wanted to give Carmelo Anthony life in jail. They settled for 30 years, but yet Carmelo Anthony defenders are begging for him to get out, so much so that he got a whole brand new team of lawyers. Now, what are the lawyers going to find out to release him from prison? I believe he's not going to get out anytime soon. Maybe of good behavior, he can lessen his sentence from 35 years down to 25 of good behavior. But for him to survive in prison, he's going to have to be somebody bitch. I know that's crazy to say, but how is a buck 130 going to survive and he killed a white man? When all the white man did, which is Austin Metcalf, was tell him to move around. It's not like Austin Metcalf pulled out a knife on school grounds. He didn't pull out a weapon. Then Carmelo Anthony, even though that doesn't give justification, because you're not supposed to have a knife in the first place on school grounds, especially if Austin Metcalf pulled out a weapon first initially, absolutely. Carmelo Anthony has the right to defend himself of the weapon of his choice. He could even delete, which he did. But a push does not justify a pocket knife. But yet, grown folks, 40, 50, 60 plus content creators making countless of videos. And if you witness the death, the glorification of the next person passing, run away from those people. How are we going to glorify death just because of political difference? Just because you may not like a certain skin complexion, you can hate somebody all you want, but to praise death is some nasty demonic work, and that should never be promoted or praised. And anybody that praises death just because of a difference of skin complexion, remove that entity from your life. They are exposing their racism within themselves that they're happy that Austin Metcalf is gone. Can you imagine, ladies and gentlemen, a kid that was supposed to walk the stage, that was supposed to actually enjoy the fruits of his labor, is no longer here with us because somebody got too emotional and they wanted to bring a knife to school. That is some disgusting work. It's so disgusting that it's even coming inside the church. We got pastors defending Carmelo Anthony like he's the victim. And that's why thus the movie Baby Boy was created, because for some reason you could be grown, but you could still have a child mindset. You could still have a child psyche, a way of thinking. Thus, Baby Boy with Tyrese, indicating you could be a grown ass man stuck in a kid's mindset. So, how are we giving Carmelo Anthony a pass when he deleted somebody's life? He gets to see the light of day again, regardless of where he's going to live life. He is still alive. Austin Metcalf is no longer here with us because somebody wanted to act too emotional. But he gets a pass, he gets sympathy. Put away the bias, the racism to the side, because that is what's blinding our people. Is skin color. They want to start a racial divide, a racial war. No, ladies and gentlemen, you cannot judge somebody off the color of their skin. You judge somebody off their character and the fruits of their labor and by what they say and their actions, not just by skin color. That's why, ladies and gentlemen, people voted for former President Barack Obama. They didn't do any research. They simply based their vote solely on the skin color. And for the record, Obama, he is the reason why a certain group of people have the right to get married. But I digress because I'm not trying to get canceled. But people want to cry after the fact, oh my God, why is that even in place? Well, you voted for the man. He made that legal, and now you want to cry? So we're quick to do something without thinking. And that's a classic example of Carmelo Anthony. He could have easily ran away from the situation. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, why was he there in the first place? Why was Carmelo Anthony even underneath the tent? Because he was invited? So let me ask y'all in the chat. Please let me know. Also, let me know your thoughts in the poll. I have a poll up. Please put your votes in, because believe it or not, people are divided between this case. And I think it's clear as day. There's nothing to be confused about. There's nothing that is rocket science. A man decided to take another man's life away because of a disagreement. It wasn't a fair fight. He wasn't getting jumped. All these stories, they even went so far to say the weapon that Carmelo Anthony used wasn't even a pocket knife. People were saying that it was a cleat sharpener. Now, I never even heard of a cleat sharpener before, and I ran track. I never used no cleat sharpener. That's what they're talking about. They're saying that he had a shop, he had a class called shop in high school, and he had legal rights to carry that weapon around school grounds. First of all, that is a lie. We have to debunk the lies. That is a bold-faced lie. Talking about he was walking around campus with a cleat sharpener. So why, once again, does he get so many excuses just because he's a black man? I believe this is selective outrage. All of a sudden, he deletes a white person. Now the judicial system is unfair, as if the judicial system hasn't been unfair for a very long time. Why this case is the straw on the camel's back. Where was the energy for that man with dreadlocks that took the life of that poor white girl on the bus? He had 9 to 13 prior felonies, but yet he was still walking the streets. The judicial system, the court failed that poor lady. All she was trying to do was come home from work. But I don't see content creators, the same content creators making videos about Carmelo Anthony is innocent. They go mute for other cases. Why is that? Because it is a gift They are grifting, ladies and gentlemen. They understand the algorithm. They know that if they go to a side that gives favoritism of crying and being a little bitch and not holding accountability, then they're going to be pushed through the algorithm. That is some crazy work. Where are the content creators holding our people accountable? And when you hold our people accountable, do you know what they call you? Oh, you have been doctrine. You have been indoctrinated. You have been brainwashed. You have been bamboozled. Everything but the truth. Everything except for accountability. That is nasty work. Now, I'm going to go ahead and play this clip of this pastor that is supposed to be breaking down the word of God within the church, making it easier, translating the Bible so others can understand. Instead, he is bringing the politics of Carmelo Anthony within the church house, misleading God's people as if they can't have a mind of their own. Just like the president, you may vote left, you may vote right. Why are you bringing politics into the church? This pastor wants to bring Carmelo Anthony within the church house as if others don't have a difference of opinion. What if somebody within that congregation was against what you're talking about, my guy?
When they selected jury, I was there the last day when they gave closing arguments at the invitation of the family. And y'all, I sat in that courtroom disgusted because of the fact that the defense did not defend Carmelo Anthony. I sat there disgusted because the prosecuting attorney then had the nerve to paint.
You sat there discussing what you. This man, Frederick Haynes, should be disgusted that he's talking about Carmelo Anthony in the church. Now, if you feel some type of way about Carmelo Anthony, by all means, you have every right to have your opinion. But he is abusing his power as a reverend to bring this within the church house. Now, let me go into the chat. Shout out to Doors in the building. Doors says, you stabbed someone to death in broad daylight at a track meet. Doors, what I'm confused about is why are people defending Carmelo Anthony? I understand he's a black man. I understand he's a first time offender, but he's a grown ass man. He's able to make somebody pregnant. In the state of Texas, you are grown at the age of 17. So people are wondering, why is he tried as an adult? Well, once again, at the age of 17, you are a grown ass man. If he was one age younger, he would be going to juvenile, but he's 17. He's going to be tried out as an adult. He has a brain on top of his shoulders, fully capable, A+ student, phenomenal athlete. That's what they say. I never heard of his name, but he can make the decision of keeping a weapon within his backpack where it should have never even, the knife should have never even been there to begin with. What happened to facing confrontation with what God have gave you? Your two arms. It's not like he was handicapped. You know, the defense could have been, you know what? I was scared for my life. I was somewhere in New York City, somewhere in a back alley. There was no cameras. Nobody could hear me scream. It was dark, back up against the wall. The judge could somewhat give you sympathy because, you know what? Even though you took a life away, you wasn't on school grounds. You was in a back alley, no cameras. So your odds was against you. That was not the same situation for Carmelo Anthony. He was in open field, coaches everywhere, students everywhere. It's not like his back wasn't up against a corner. He wasn't cornered anywhere. He had multiple angles to run, but he decides and his God-given brain to pull out a knife. And look, he gets the pass. He gets sympathy from our people because of what? Of all the cases that has been transpired, this has got to be donkey of the day for sure. This takes cream of the crop in terms of nonsense. With George Floyd, he gets an excuse because he, even though he had fought prior felons, he was pushing out counterfeit money and he was doing all type of controlled substance that he had no business doing. At the end of the day, the man was innocent. His past does not define his future. He didn't deserve to pass away underneath a police officer's knee. George Floyd is not the same case as Carmelo Anthony. We got to stop the cap. Soon as somebody gets pulled over, they want to scream and gaslight the police officer. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I don't want to be George Floyd. I don't want to be George Floyd. The selective outrage and the gaslighting is at an all-time high. See Carmelo Anthony as a black African American man take somebody's life away, but yet he's the victim. Then he gets all the praise because he gets a new lawyer team. Now, by all means, ladies and gentlemen, if evidence comes out that Carmelo Anthony is innocent, I will publicly apologize. I'm not going to delete any videos and hide like a little punk because I'm going to stand on it. I'm not basing my decision off emotion. I'm basing my decision off of what I see, the evidence, and the evidence that has been displayed, that has been released to the public is my decision making that this man is fully guilty. The knife that was portrayed as a cleat sharpener, evidence one, on Juneteenth, footage was released of Carmelo Anthony committing the action that he did. Now they're saying the footage that was released is fake. They're saying the video's altered, it's AI. Everything that's coming out, they're saying is fake. So you show them the weapon of choice, you show them the video footage in 2026, still you cannot show proof. People will still find the lie, but it doesn't matter what people say, or they can make thousands of videos. Carmelo Anthony decided to bring a knife to school. And to have sympathy for the man, how are we going to have sympathy? It'd be one thing if he used his God-given two hands and he took a life away with his two hands and he was defending himself. Then some way he can get some type of leverage within the court system. The jury would say, you know what, he didn't plan to take out nobody, but unfortunately in the middle of the fight, in the feud, a life was gone. We can give him manslaughter. He's still going to face the consequences, but first degree premeditated red rum, that's a lot to give a first time offender. No, that wasn't that. He brought a knife. And that's something that people are not talking about enough. Why are these content creators that are defending Carmelo Anthony? They want to talk about the video was altered and all these other things. Let's talk about the common denominator. Why did he bring a pocket knife to school?
Carmelo Anthony as a monster of a man, and then he
Ladies and gentlemen, when I was in school back in grade school, I bought a T99 calculator before its time, before I even needed it. And it got confiscated because I was distracting the class. All I did was bring a calculator. And even then, it was burning through my pocket as if I was carrying something. All of this is a calculator. Carmelo Anthony bringing a whole knife to school? If he's caught with that, that's a felony by itself. Now he's going to use it. And what's nasty work is that he could have pulled out the knife and played possum, portraying that he was going to do something, but in reality, he knows the consequences of his actions. And what doesn't make sense, ladies and gentlemen, why would he aim towards a direction towards somebody's chest as if that's not a vital organ? There's so many red flags. All this could have been prevented if the man didn't bring a weapon to school. And what even puts the icing on the cake, what makes it worse, you would think Carmelo Anthony is somewhere in the ghetto, somewhere in the hood. You know, you hear a black boy taking another boy's life away. Where did he reside? He had to bring a knife to school because he stays in the trenches. No, he was in a very prestigious school that was well kept. His parents had a good job. There was no reason to bring a knife. Now, in his defense, to play devil's advocate, because I like to make sense of things, even though it doesn't justify. I think the reason why he brought the knife to school is obviously he got bullied prior and he felt some type of way. Still, a different conversation should have been made. He should have talked to some type of parents, teachers, even a friend saying, yo, so and so, when they come around me, look out for me because they gave me texts, prior messages that they're going to harm my life. So I'm very fearful of my life. I don't want to go in jail for doing something I'm going to regret. So When this person comes around me, and that's what Carmelo Anthony should have had a conversation with the school counselor, the principal, his friends, his parents. When this individual comes around me, I need y'all to keep eyes on me at 24/7 because my life is on the line. If he's so frightened, if Carmelo Anthony is so fearful for his life, why didn't he communicate? But he took matters on his own hands, like this is a New York City dark alley somewhere bar with no cameras inside. He acted like he was going to the restroom, and 20 dudes followed him to the restroom and turned off the lights behind him and locked the door behind him. But he gets a pass and justification and pastors and people from the view defending him, people marching in the streets, having priors but getting exposed, talking about justice for Carmelo Anthony, getting arrested. All this protest, all this uproar for a man that had fully he was fully capable of making a decision of not bringing a knife to school. But he did. This is not an unfortunate situation. It's not an accident. No, he pulled the premeditation is going in your book bag, picking a weapon, and doing that God regretful act. And he gets remorse. Why?
Closed out with this, and y'all reach your own conclusions. He told that jury of all non-blacks, he said, you have an opportunity here in Collin County to determine the kind of community that you want to live in. As he pointed at that little boy who suffers from seizures, what do you think he was saying to that all non-black jury? And you gonna talk about self.
So this pastor's talking about this little boy with seizures. What does a seizure have? So if one is suffering from a seizure, what does that have to do with anything with stabbing somebody in the chest? The excuses are out of control, ladies and gentlemen. They're talking about Carmelo Anthony is suffering through seizures, so that has an impact. He was scared for his life. He couldn't be. There's no way he could receive a punch because if he was punched, he would have passed away. So he took somebody's life away because better Austin Metcalf than Carmelo. Well, if you're so scared for your life, if you're suffering from seizures, and you're scared so much that you have to pull out a knife, why are you even there to begin with? If you saw a confrontation approaching you, remove yourself from that environment. That doesn't make you a punk. What do you have anything to prove? You're an athlete, you're an A+ student. If it doesn't work for you in sports, it's going to work for you in the educational school system. And you throw your whole life away because of what? Because of ego? This case is just silly. But what makes it even more silly is the Carmelo Anthony defenders. If there was evidence that Carmelo Anthony never used the knife, absolutely, he's innocent. But evidence has not come out saying such. Then let's debunk the whole black jury thing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, they actually interviewed black jurors, and they said verbatim, they don't have the heart to convict one of their own. So why would you put an emotional ass person in a jury if he can't even make a fair decision? That is injustice. That is unfair to everybody in the courtroom, including Carmelo Anthony. Talking about he didn't have a jury of his peers. A jury of your peers doesn't mean same skin color as you. Jury of your peers means somebody that's going to keep it fair between the middle. That is jury of your peers. No favoritism, no bias, but 100% even between the middle. How come there wasn't any black jurors? It's unfair. He didn't get a fair trial. Everybody on trial was white people. The judge was white. The jury was white. Carmelo Anthony should have got a fair trial. How come his brother didn't testify? He was going to fold under pressure. How come he didn't testify? All the excuses. But what's the excuse for Austin Metcalf? He's no longer here. He can no longer defend himself. He will no longer be here with us, ladies and gentlemen, because somebody wants to act emotional. He doesn't get a chance to see the sun rise again. He doesn't have a chance to walk the stage. He was a 12th grader. He doesn't have the stage to get his diploma. He can't get his first job out of high school. He can't get his first big boy job. He can't do none of these things. Carmelo Anthony, if he gets out of jail, whatever time he serves, he has the opportunity to still breathe. He can actually use his life as a testimony, telling others not to act based off emotion because you would end up just like me. He can easily be a self motivational speaker stating, yo, I had a bright future. I was making all A's. I was a phenomenal athlete. And I threw it all away because of emotions. So the next person, if they get too hot and they're about to act without thinking, they can remember Carmelo Anthony. He could use his life once again as a testimony. He has a chance to finesse. He can go on 30 for 30, all type of interviews. Why did you do this? How did you survive jail? How are you still positive coming out of jail? He can really monetize the situation. Carmelo Anthony still has a chance. Austin Metcalf doesn't. We got to put our bias to the side, our hate to the side. I don't care how much you hate a certain ethnic group, Indian, Chinese, Hispanic. When it comes to a life, that all is petty. When somebody is no longer breathing because of injustice, we got to stop the cap. And it's very disgraceful and very shameful that you have grown folks with kids. I might I mind you, these people have kids pressing the record button on the internet, pushing out content that Carmelo Anthony is innocent and able to sleep at night. Now, what are they supposed to do with that information? Now they're leading people off a cliff, making it seem like Carmelo Anthony's innocent. But let it be their own kid. If their kid was deleted because of a fight in school, they will feel some type of way. They would want Carmelo Anthony to suffer life in jail, and they would be pissed if Carmelo Anthony only got 30 years. A life is no longer here, ladies and gentlemen. And certain people are glorifying. They're jumping up and down. They're making songs. They're talking about to the father, you will never have your kid again. The hate is crazy. And we're sharing this planet with demons. The demons even are entering the church. The devil's not afraid of church. The devil knows scriptures, ladies and gentlemen. We are living in spiritual warfare, and right now the agenda is to divide us. They want a racial war. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, the internet is not the same as real life. Do not let these content creators confuse you to make it seem like it's us versus them. Stop it.
You're going to talk about de-escalation. You're going to talk about telling our kids to calm down. No, you tell the kids to calm down. Who I went out to that Collin County courthouse and they came up to me. They said, thank you for being here, Pastor. But my question to you is, we can't defend ourselves because George Zimmerman can hunt down.
Yeah, see what they do? What does George Zimmerman have to do with Carmelo Anthony? Two different cases. George Zimmerman is a gaslight. George Floyd, gaslight. Emmett Till, gaslight. Everyone that got police brutality that they're bringing up in comparison of Carmelo Anthony is gaslighting. It has nothing to do. There was no police brutality. The police was actually late to the scene, and they was being extremely respectful to Carmelo Anthony. They actually was helping him. He screwed himself. When the police officer was arresting Carmelo Anthony, he said, "I have the alleged victim." Verbatim. That's what the police officer said. You know what Carmelo Anthony said to make his situation worse? He said, "It's not alleged. I did it." Let's play that tape.
Okay. He put his hands on me. I told him not to. He put his hands on me.
And this photo of the Ozark Trail multi
Suspect. Suspect. Trayvon Martin, and he can get off for stand your ground. But this boy, our friend, can't even defend himself. We are not safe. There the first day when they selected jury. I was there the last day when they gave closing arguments at the invitation of the family. And y'all, I sat in that courtroom disgusted because of the fact that the defense did not defend Karmelo Anthony. I sat there disgusted because the prosecuting attorney then had the nerve to paint Karmelo Anthony as a monster of a man. And then he closed out with this, and y'all reach your own conclusions. He told that jury of all non-blacks, he said, you have an opportunity here in Collin County to determine the kind of community that you want to live in. As he pointed at that little boy who suffers from seizures, what do you think he
My apologies. I think I was talking this whole time and y'all wasn't even listening to me. So the weapon of choice was a pocket knife, but yet Carmelo Anthony gets the excuse that the pocket knife was a cleat sharpener. Now, if I was to just listen solely on the next person spreading lies, I would be portrayed as a jackass. Because how am I able to have the resource of Google and all these different search engines and finding out the truth for myself? And I'm still pushing out lies, telling BS to the masses as if I don't know what's going on. I'm telling the people the pocket knife was a cleat sharpener. I'm telling people the video is fake. It's AI. It's edited. I'm telling people the knife was never used by Karmelo Anthony. It was used by his brother. His brother took him out. I'm telling people the father deserved to have his child deleted because he's a terror. All these are demonic ass takes. And these people that are giving these excuses, talking about the father deserved to have his son taken away, they're exposing the hate within their heart. Even if it's so, even if the father is some evil, racist, scumbag piece of shit, that does not give justification for his son to no longer be breathing because of a disagreement on high school property. They were saying the same thing about Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk, his takes was very controversial. They was justifying his death, saying that, oh, he was a very hateful person. He deserved to be deleted. Imagine people glorifying somebody's death just because of his political views. They're exposing the demons within themselves. And the devil right now is in the church spreading lies to the congregation.
was saying to that all non-black jury, and you're going to talk about you're going to talk about de-escalation, you're going to talk about telling our kids to calm down. No, you tell the kids to calm down. Who I went out to that Collin County courthouse, and they came up to me. They said, thank you for being here, Pastor. But my question to you is, we can't defend ourselves because George Zimmerman can hunt down Trayvon Martin, and he can get off for stand your ground. But this boy, our friend, can't even defend.
George Zimmerman has nothing to do with Carmelo Anthony. We got to stop the gaslighting. They're trying to mix racial and police brutality with this case. We got to stop the cap. What happened to George Zimmerman chasing Trayvon Martin? Trayvon Martin, rest in peace to his soul, wanted to get some Skittles and candy and whatever, hot Cheetos and his hoodie. Whatever the snacks he was trying to get, that was wrongful. They was racial profiling Trayvon Martin, thinking he was a quirk, and all he was trying to do was buy candy. We got to stop the cap. That has nothing to do with Carmelo Anthony. Talking about, oh, you know how they do our people. Once we're in the system, they do us dirty. Well, nobody told they did him a favor. Carmelo Anthony got blessed enough to only get 30 plus years. They was trying to give him life.
Himself, we are not safe.
Absolutely. Someone in the chat said he was suspended. The man was suspended. He had no business on school property. He was told to leave by Austin Metcalf, Even though Carmelo Anthony was there first, he was at the rivals. He was at the opposition at rival school. Now, for the ones that actually went to high school in America, you know how the opposition rival schools are. You have no business going to a rival school talking to anybody. Is it illegal? No, it's not illegal. But politically, it is wrong. When I was in high school and I played a rival, we've actually fought in the middle of the football field. They had to cancel the game, and the opposing team went back to their schools, and we never played again. We had so much hatred for one another. We understood that we're not going to see, spin, or do anything with one another outside of this football field. Why in the HELL hockey sticks is Carmelo Anthony going to go hang out with the rivals? To do what? To take their girl? And he's surprised that he gets confronted? Is that why he brought a pocket knife? Because he knew they was going to get mad by him being in their property, on their turf? Now, is it illegal to be at somebody else's school grounds? No. Is it trespassing, especially when you're suspended? Yes. He was suspended.
To have vision.
Why are you suspended going to somebody's school talking about I ain't gonna leave?
You got to have vision.
Stop the cap. Next person I'm going to play on the screen is a woman extremely passionate about Carmelo Anthony, and I believe it's selective outrage. Y'all let me know your take.
When you would come here and you look like us to slaughter you. Absolutely. That judge intentionally sealed us from being able to have a legal right to see what the on in this case for a mother reason. That's fine. Because he know when we have access, we don't play about our people. So how do he silence us? He closed the fucking case so we can't see what is going on.
I see a comment that caught my eye. I didn't see it earlier. I was going through the comments. Let me highlight it real quick. Where is it at? I can't find the other comment by Doors, but he said, "Do you really think they was going to beat him up so much to where his life was going to be taken?" Okay, here it is. I found it. Door 7777757 says, you think they were going to beat him to death? Come on now. That's what they were trying to portray, that Austin Metcalf's brother and two other white boys, 200 plus pounds, is going to beat him to death at a track meet where there's coaches everywhere, authorities everywhere, students everywhere, but somehow his life was on the line. That's what content creators are pushing out, ladies and gentlemen, that his life was on the line. They had to bring EMS to a track meet, not because a football player fell and collapsed in the middle of a play, but because somebody had no business being there, was asked to leave, and he decided to pull out a knife. He pulled out a knife to a fist fight on school property. Then he gets the sympathy of a selective group, not all, but a selective group, as if he's the victim, saying he had a right to defend himself. Are we really putting ourselves back by these takes? I couldn't even bring a calculator to my 5th grade class. And it's a calculator, bro. It wasn't even a Game Boy. I never got to see that calculator again. It was, I mean, y'all know those calculators that cost $100 plus. That was an expensive ass calculator, and they confiscated that. Never gave it back to me. I came to my classroom less than 10 minutes. I pulled it out. Teacher confiscated that. Never got that thing back. To this day. To this day. And they made it seem like the calculator was a bad thing. And I knew I shouldn't have. I had no business as a 5th grader bringing a $100 plus calculator to class. But I had enough common sense to know I wasn't supposed to do that. But a 12th grader, a grown-ass man who's 17 years old, at the time he was 16, has the prefrontal cortex, which is the front part of your brain, which is supposed to be for your decision making doesn't fully develop into the age of 24 for men, 21 for women. Obviously, he has a couple more years to have that part of his brain develop, but that doesn't give him an excuse. The excuse would have been he punched Austin Metcalf. He unfortunately passed away from his punch. That's not premeditated. Premeditated is the highest degree. They was trying to give him life, but he gets the sympathy and the remorse because of what? Because he's black? Crazy work.
Also, the reason he shut down black media from coming, he only had these white in that courthouse so that they could tell the wrong story about Karmelo Anthony. And they could tell the white story about the domestic terror, because that's what they were. Those twins are domestic racist terrorists. That judge him.
Do you know who is a terrorist? Who's a red worm who actually did something? Because we can accuse and say allege and give what we think, but what we know is that Karmelo Anthony did what he did. Cold truth. We don't know 100% that the Austin Metcalf and his brother are racist and bullies and all these other things they're trying to portray and put a title on these boys' heads. We obviously know that they didn't like each other. That's one thing for sure. But just because they didn't like each other doesn't mean a boy deserves to be deleted. Talking about, oh, he deserved to be deleted. He was a bully. So you're telling me that for everyone that got bullied, justifications to delete them on school property? Is that what we're saying?
That prosecutor, him. They had them white on that jury for a reason.
He'll get it back in the high court.
When they pick their jury like that, that's designed because they know that their people are not smart as us.
Now she is pushing out. She is what's the word? It's not self-portraying, but what is it when you start talking, you start exposing yourself? Y'all let me know in the chat. She is exposing the demons and what's the vocabulary word that I'm looking for? The insecurity, talking about white people are not as smart as can y'all believe the ignorance? Like, it's one thing to have those intrusive thoughts in your mind, but to say it on camera, white people's not as smart as us. It's white people's not as smart as us. Is that what we really saying? So when you say these things, you know that people are going to believe you. And these same people are going to go out into society, ladies and gentlemen. Yo, stay prayed up out here. Just because somebody is a grown person doesn't mean that they're grown.
We can read through the book. They follow their book and believe what they say. So when we are out here discrediting ourselves, it's giving them an advantage. They know how to divide us. And that's through the court system. And they silence us from the court system. When you see that prosecutor, ask him, why do he have a settlement with a civil case for harassing 7 white women at the... Ask the DA how he was on that. He still got a job. That's because they vote for each other. So we got to take our power back. Elections are coming. That's right. That's right. We gonna tell they ass what we want. Are you? We got to show up for jury service. We got to show up and participate. Stop trying, because that's how they slaughter us. Those kids got up there and lied off of a relationship, and the prosecutors led it. They have an ethical duty to make sure witnesses testify truthfully, and they did, because it was a win for them. They cost one of ours their freedom. That judge was in there feeding the state objections because they were too dumb to know what the object to.
Yes, he did.
I ain't never seen no judge do no shit like that.
He did.
He got too much experience, over 40 years as a and you don't know that, and you got this judge up there helping you on such a big case. This is his life. We just came from South Carolina where they hunted that baby down and got off. They tried to hunt him down, and he protected.
So once again, this is what they're doing. They're comparing all the other cases that have to do with race, mixing that with Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo Anthony was surrounded with authority figures, with coaches, with other students. There was a multitude of resources for him to cry and run to, but he decided to take matters into his own hands, take a life away. Then he wants to run to his head coach, talking about, is he going to be okay? No, Carmelo, he's not going to be okay. He's no longer breathing thanks to you. And you have the next 30 years to think about the choices of your actions. 30 years in TDC, Texas Directional Center. Stupid ass reasoning to go to jail. People are pushing weight, trying to provide for their family. You know, doesn't make it right, but what is the reason behind your crime? Trying to feed your family. I can somewhat make sense of that. You know, is it illegal? Yeah, it's illegal. You're pushing out something that's not supposed to be pushed. But what are you doing with the bread? You're taking care of your family. So I could see certain crimes, some justification. This is not justification whatsoever. Just because you're skinnier than your opposition does not mean you can use a knife, especially on school property. Then he gets defense. Let me go to the polls. We got 251 votes in the building. 84% says no, Carmelo Anthony using a knife on school property is self-defense. And 16%, so the percentage is actually going towards the favor of no. But still, you have people voting saying Carmelo Anthony had the right to use a knife on school grounds. That 16% is scary. It should be no more than 2%, 1%. Anything over 5% is crazy work. How is a knife on school property legal? Please let me know in the chat.
Himself so he could get home safe, and they convicted him. And one white jury had the mother to sit in that damn box and cry. It's too late for your tears. Your tears was needed when you was back there deciding within 30 fucking minutes of his life.
I'm dancing, you ain't gonna do shit. 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 I'm dancing, you ain't gonna do shit.
Yo, look at the protesters for Carmelo Anthony, bruh. It's not the same situation as Trayvon Martin. It's not the same as George Floyd. It's not the same as Emmett Till. It's not the same. Stop mixing Carmelo Anthony with everybody else. It's not the same case. We got to add that into context. Just because he's black doesn't mean he's racially profiled. Stop the cap.
If evidence does come out that Carmelo was not in fact fighting for his life when he stabbed and killed Austin Metcalf, do you think that the black community will accept that?
If evidence shows that he did not, no, we're going to stand by ours regardless. They stand by theirs.
If the evidence comes out that Carmelo Anthony is guilty, are you still going to stand by him? She says yes, because they stand by theirs. The ignorance is at an all-time high. So even though he's guilty, you're still going to stand by him because he's black. So what's right is right, what's wrong is wrong, but you're basing your decision because he's black and and Austin Metcalf is white?
We're going to stand by ours regardless. I'm a mother first. I'm a black mother. Let me put that on there. I'm an African-American mother. So I have to.
If the evidence comes out
For his life when he stabbed and killed Austin Metcalf, do you think that the black community will accept that?
If evidence shows that he did not, no, we're going to stand by ours regardless. They stand by theirs.
we're going to stand by ours regardless. They stand by theirs. Is crazy work.
Suspect. Okay. He put his hands on me. I told him not to. He put his hands on me.
And this photo of the Ozark Trail multi-tool knife that prosecutors say Anthony used to fatally stab Metcalf is
Suspect. Okay. He put his hands on me. I told him not to. He put his hands on me.
He put his hands on me. I told him not to put his hands on me. He put his hands on me. I told him not to put his hands on me. This man crying to the police. He put his hands on me. I told him not to put his hands on me. And that's the guy that y'all gave his sympathy towards. He wants to cry after the action. Where was that prior? You knew what you was doing before you did what you did. Now you want to cry? No, stand 10 toes down, bro. Don't be crying to nobody. If you want to take somebody's life away, even though it's wrong, and you get caught, stand on that. If you push away and you get caught, you knew if you're going to do the crime, you're going to have to pay the time. Whatever you do, keep it 10 toes down. Stand on that. If you're wrong, admit that you're wrong, but don't fold under pressure, crying like a little. He put his hands on me. I told him not to put his hands on me.
Suspect. I am. All right. Okay. He put his hands on me. I told him not to. He put his hands on me.
Yo, so we feel sorry for Carmelo. Where's the same energy for Austin Metcalf? Because he's no longer here. Instead, they're sending hate mail and all type of disgusting messages to the father, saying your son is no longer breathing. They're justifying the death because they're saying that Austin Metcalf was a bully.
I don't give a shit about the skin color, okay? You don't gotta remind me that I'm black. I know I'm black. I'm not freaking blonde. I look in the mirror every single day. I know that I'm black. But that don't mean a damn thing when it comes to this situation right here. Color don't have anything to do with it. It has everything to do with somebody killing somebody that they had no business killing. It was not self-defense. He murdered that young boy. And y'all think it's okay because he's white? And you don't want to, and you want to threaten me? And you want to call me out? I don't want to be around anybody. I don't want to be associated with anybody who thinks it is okay for a young man, a young teenager, to be murdered all because he's white. If you think that's okay, I don't want you in my life. I don't want to be anywhere near you. I don't want you following me, and I'm not going to follow you. Okay? Y'all are freaking evil and full of hatred and straight up racist. To all you black people that accuse white people of being racist, but y'all stand with Karmelo Anthony and y'all think it's okay that he killed an innocent white boy? Y'all are freaking racist. Y'all are the real racist ones. Because these white people that are standing up, that have been asking for justice for Austin, it's not because of his race. It's because he did not deserve to be stabbed at school. That's why. It has nothing to do with race. So if you got a problem with me being black and not standing with some damn killer, a criminal who decided to stab an innocent person, I don't want to have anything to do with you. I don't care. Keep threatening me. You can say that I'm not black anymore. Say what you want. I don't give a damn. Because this is about right and wrong. And y'all are straight up wrong for standing with Karmelo Anthony, knowing he had no business bringing a knife to school, knowing he had no business stabbing that boy. When kids fight at school all the time. A lot of y'all kids fight at school. Do you want them to get stabbed? And according to witnesses, Karmelo Anthony started it. But let's say that Austin did. He still did not deserve to be stabbed and killed at school. Period. Point blank, period. At the end of the day, this is about the human race, not black and white and brown, purple, or any of that. We are all humans. And another human wrongfully killed another human. Get that through your freaking head.
I'm dancing, you ain't gonna do shit. 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 I'm dancing, you ain't gonna do shit.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're now going to transition to a member from The View defending Karmelo Anthony. Just give me 1 second. Let me find that real quick. So I don't watch The View, but y'all know Whoopi Goldberg and them is on there. Yo, let's hear these people's take real fast.
Secret societies. It's pledging allegiance to something other than God.
Karmelo Anthony fatally stabbed Austin Metcalf at a Texas track meet in April of 2025. Take a look.
Not alleged, I did. Okay. He put his hands on me. I told him not to. He put his hands on me.
He was sentenced to 35 years in prison, which he's appealing. The case has a lot of people divided. Some people believe that race was a factor in the trial because there were no black jurors. They were all the 3 black jurors that were there were educators, and they were released.
They were struck.
They were struck for that. And some folks think, no, he got a fair trial. But is this a jury of his peers?
I don't think so. And you know, this has been an issue for such a long time in the judicial system where...
Listen to the gaslighting. Now, they interviewed the black jurors and they said they don't have the heart to convict one of their own. Now, let me show you the woman that's about to cap. This woman here. Listen to her take. No accountability. Where's the takes about Karmelo Anthony bringing a knife to school property? We're not focused about the facts. We're talking about emotion. We're talking about a man being black. We're talking about him having seizures. Everything except for accountability.
Prosecutors use what are called, Batson challenges, and they
explain what that is.
It's a challenge that is used to strike a juror, generally a juror of color, for a race-neutral reason.
Right.
Because you're supposed to have a jury of your peers, and you're not supposed to just strike someone because they're black. And in this case, they gave the reasoning that they're educators, and these were high school students, and this happened at a school track meet, so they couldn't be impartial because of that. I don't think that's an appropriate reason.
They might be the best ones, too.
Yeah, I don't think it's an appropriate reason to strike black jurors, especially when it's a young black teenager on trial, and especially when that particular area is made up of 10% of an African-American community. So I don't think he got a jury of his peers. So I think on appeal, there is a legitimate thing. A legitimate reason. I also think we have to look at self-defense here because there seems to be 2 systems of justice at play in this country. And there have been for a very long time. I was part of the system, so I understand that, and I believe that to be true. In this case, this young man, you heard him say he put his hands on me, and I told him not to. The kid that died, and I have so much empathy for him and his family's loss. That kid was 200 pounds. This kid was 130 pounds. And so, and the other kid was also taller than he is. He was the only black kid.
So she's talking about the dude's weight, talking about the height, his dick size, his social security, all these things as if that's justification to have a knife on school grounds. Like what are you talking about his dick size for? We don't care. We don't care if he was constipated the night before or if he was taking laxative. We do not care. Why did he bring a knife to school?
Under the tent, and the victim here had his twin brother with him, who was also a very large person. If you don't fear for your life, if you weigh 130 pounds, I weigh 130 pounds.
Look at so she's talking about she weighs 130 pounds. She would be afraid too if she was in the position of Karmelo Anthony. So you're so afraid you have to kill somebody? Yo, if you're that afraid, my guy, you should be in a separate room away from everybody. If everybody's a threat, why did you go to proceed to hang out at a rival school, especially when you're suspended. Like so many red flags, so many things, so many road bumps that could have stopped him, but he ran over every single road bump, such as being suspended, bringing a knife, being told to leave. Had plenty of opportunities to this escalate, to not have this tragic situation occur, but he pushed through. He went through all the turbulence and still found a way to pull out a knife. This boy no longer has his brother, a father no longer has a son, but they are getting bullied, they're getting hate mail, they're being called racist and all this. Yo, if my son, God forbid, because words are very powerful, ladies and gentlemen, you have to be very mindful of what you say. But God forbid if my beloved son that I put into this life is taken away by a student because of a fight, I'm gonna keep it YouTube friendly, but I'm getting in trouble for sure. Let's not act like the father of Asa Metcalf doesn't have the right to mourn. He no longer has his son. Let him mourn in peace.
Somebody that's 200 pounds, I would be terrified of that. So I don't understand why self-defense was rejected by this jury.
I agree with a lot of what you're saying, especially the jury representation. That's what stood out to me. And we know there's plenty of evidence that there's sentencing disparity with people of color. The one thing to me, though, is what is the fair sentence when you take a life? And this is what I'm struggling with, because this is a tragedy across the board. A 17-year-old is dead.
It should be a life for a life, but he's only getting 35 years. They were trying to give him the max life in prison, but they settled for 35. He took a life away. What do you mean? What is the sentence for taking a life away? It should be minimum 25 years, but they're crying, talking about he got a harsh punishment.
17-year-old's going to likely spend 35 years in jail. He could appeal at 17. What would you? I'd be curious what you think, because I wrestle with it. If it was, God forbid, anyone in my life, I would think 30 years seems about right. If they said life, I'd say that's too long for a 17-year-old. He could be rehabilitated.
Look, I think 35 years, if there is no self-defense claim, which is an absolute claim to this crime, absolute defense, I think that would be appropriate. But if you look at other cases, there was the other case where there was a young black kid who was...
Here we go, mixing racial cases with Karmelo Anthony. That's what they're doing, to manipulate, to gaslight, and to portray as if Karmelo Anthony is the victim. How? How is Karmelo Anthony the victim, ladies and gentlemen, when he's still breathing? Let's go to his face. Let's go to his mugshot. Do you see a black eye, scratches? This is a fresh mugshot after he got arrested, talking about, he put his hands on me. I told him not to put his hands on me. I see people more beat up in domestic disputes fighting their other half. He was getting jumped, right? Allegedly. Where is a single scratch, mark, bruise on this man's face? Where? This is the mugshot where he got arrested. That's where y'all have the full capable abilities of doing the same thing. Going on Google, type in the name, you see the same pic. It's not altered AI. Didn't take out his bruises. All these excuses for the man. But he was getting bullied, right? Where's his black eye? Where's the scratch? Where's him bleeding? I don't see nothing, but his life was so threatened. Man, your girlfriend is more of a threat than how Asa Metcalf was to Karmelo Anthony. Your girl is more of a threat. I don't see a single mark on his face, but he's the victim, right?
Chased by Rick Chow, a store owner, accused of taking water bottles, which he didn't take, the 4 water bottles. He chased that young boy 130 yards, which is half of a football field, and shot him in the back, claiming self-defense. And you know where he is right now? He's at home with his family because he was found...
Gaslight. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to run some errands. Just want to come through real fast and share my thoughts. Thank y'all for coming through in the building. Let me go to the polls real fast before I get out of here. We got 366 votes. 83% says no. 17% says yes. Karmelo Anthony has the right to defend himself using a knife. How, Sway? That's crazy work. For the ones that's gonna watch this on playback, y'all let me know your take as well in the comment section. Do you believe Karmelo Anthony is innocent for using a knife on school property?
He doesn't care. How many more people are gonna freaking die? How many more people are gonna go homeless? And how many more people are gonna be trafficked in our freaking system? That we live in, and these politicians are just walking off thinking it's okay Tuesday, and they want to go visit the Trump, they want to blame the Trump administration. We have Democrats blaming ICE. I'm tired. My people are suffering. I'm scared for my little brother. My people are suffering, and these people just walk off. We have a governor who fucking doesn't care. How many more people are gonna freaking die? How many more people are gonna go homeless? And how many more people are gonna be trafficked in our freaking system?
Motherfuckers ain't in love with the game. Y'all don't respect the game. That's why y'all never beat the game.